Welcome to the Shock Your Potential podcast with your host, Michael Sherlock. We all have potential, but sometimes we need inspiration to get us to our peak performance. Whether you are starting out in your career, ready to move up the corporate ladder, or taking the leap into entrepreneurship, Michael's guests provide powerful tools and resources to shock your potential. Shock Your Potential is a global professional development training company committed to your unique journey. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com. Listen in to today's expert.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Shock Your Potential. I am your host, Michael Sherlock. And all month long, we are featuring elite entrepreneurs. And we're actually, with this episode, kind of doing a bridge from our entrepreneurial veterans as well as our elite entrepreneurs. So my guest today has her feet in both worlds. So I think we'll probably, tackle a couple of those issues all together. Now, her name is Kizzy Parks, which I think is going to be fun to ask the question about her name too. But I love part of her bio here. She says, as a kid, Kizzy would clean off golf balls located in an alley behind her friend's house. And then guess what? She would resell them through a fence to golfers. Very smart. And she used the money, admittedly, to buy things that I love, like FUNYUNS and Nutty Bars. So it means she's got great taste. And she always knew she would become an entrepreneur. In fact, obviously, as a kid, she already showed that entrepreneurial spirit. And she went on to earn an advanced degree in psychology, which we know is so critically important in order to figure out how to operate at highest efficiencies. Her entrepreneurial spirit meshed well with her inquisitive nature. And as me, she's an adopted child who always wanted to know and meet her birth family. And driven to be a successful business owner, she knew she would be, which is part of that line of how much our confidence really dictates our outcomes. But she didn't just stop at that advanced degree. She went on to earn a Ph.D. and established her company, KPC, over a decade ago. Now, today, she owns and operates multiple businesses and has over 50 million in government contract awards. In fact, through GovCon winners, she helps service-based small business owners learn how to win profitable federal government contracts through powerful CDC techniques. And that will in turn help them to grow their bottom and top line. So joining me today is Kizzy Parks. Thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor.
I love the story of your beginning, that entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, that takes the idea of the lemonade stand to a whole new level, but it's so smart and golfers will pay for that without a doubt. So, tell us a little bit more about your journey to become an entrepreneur, but, and how it's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, I always knew when I was younger, I knew I was going to get a PhD and I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. It was just something that I felt. I always loved reading the money and business section of newspapers and learning about businesses. It was just something I always loved. And so when I was in graduate school, to earn extra money, I would provide different services to consulting companies. So it was a lot of back end, like analyze this data, fill in this PowerPoint, kind of the grunt work.
Right.
And there were other opportunities too. And I thought, well, this is great. This is great experience. I thought to myself that once I earned my PhD, I would go on, work for a company for like 20 years, and then start a business later on in life. Or maybe teach for a university in person or online, and on the side, consult, because that was also very common around those that I came across. And I ended up doing neither of those. So it was definitely not the path I chose. Instead, there was a graduate research fellowship available at now Patrick Space Force in Melbourne, Florida. Okay. And many of my family members served in the Navy, Marines, Army. And I thought, oh, this is great. This is my opportunity to kind of be involved. And who knows? I just thought this is great. It's at an Air Force base. It involves analyzing data research, and it's paid. This is great. I'll figure out the rest of my life as I'm closing out my PhD chapter. And I thought, that's all I thought. And actually what happened was at the end, pretty much at the end of my dissertation journey, the director of research said, I heard you're graduating soon. Have you thought about staying on as a contractor? I would like for you to stay on as a contractor. And I kind of saw what that meant. I had no idea about invoicing or contracts or subcontracts or anything of
All
that
those
nature.
details. Yeah.
I had no idea, because usually a company, they would just pay me. I was 1099. We negotiated a price and that was it. So I said, yes. I said, but I'm going to grow my business and have other clients. I said, I'm not going to be a typical full-time equivalent where I'm in a seat 40 hours a day.
Right.
I said, I'm not going to do that. And so that's what started K Parks Consulting, my first of 3 government contracting companies. And so to this day, we provide a variety of services, primarily to the federal government, around now training, staff augmentation, IT, other professional services. We inspect all vape shops in America, for instance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it all just started out from that graduate research fellowship and my desire to be an entrepreneur.
You know what? So many things I love about your story, but what I really loved, it was, it made me giggle that you're like, I thought I'd do this and I thought I'd do that. And then I did none of those things, because we all start out thinking we know what we're going to do, but unless we become a doctor or a lawyer, very few of us follow the same path that we started in college. But I love the fact that when you had this opportunity, you made very clear that you didn't just want to be a full-time employee that wasn't an employee, that wasn't what you wanted to accomplish. You didn't mind doing it. You wanted to learn from the situation, but you didn't want to be tied to something that kept you in the same kind of arrangement as an employment arrangement, but without a lot of, there's obviously some pluses, but without all the benefits. And that's a really smart decision. I coach people a lot on, what choices they make in their career. And just the fact that you knew that at that time and said, nope, here's my boundaries. That tells a lot. It tells a lot about you, but it also tells a lot about, where your successes come from.
Well, I appreciate that. It was super important because I observed certain dynamics between military, government, contractors. I observed that many people believed a contract role was like that coveted next step. Like, many would retire at Patrick.
Yep.
And then they wanted a contract position because they wanted to stay nestled between the ocean and the river. It's a beauty.
Yeah.
Patrick is gorgeous. If for those of you who have never ever been, it's just south of Kennedy Space Center. And so I thought, okay, I get it. However, that wasn't my desire. My desire wasn't just any 40-hour position. It was something I really was passionate about. And I thought, hey, well, I can run with it. And literally I did. And initially I picked up the Army Reserve as a client through my engagement at Patrick. I picked up National Guard. I picked up speaking engagements. There were a lot of like one-off engagements. And I learned, that was the other thing I learned throughout, because I had no idea about government contracting or how to run a business. And so I went throughout the state, found people to help me. I wouldn't say that they were official. That's my mentor. We didn't have labels, but they were people that I would treat to lunch, or I would go to their office, and they broke it down. They said, to be successful in government contracting, you need to diversify. You need to have full-time equivalents. You should look into these certifications, Kizzy. And they were really helpful, because otherwise, how do you learn?
Right. Yeah. You have to have somebody show you the way. But I mean, at the end of the day, the entrepreneurial spirit, I'm kind of doing this a little bit. We're not talking a lot about what your business does. We'll do that after the break. I'm kind of going backwards just because your entrepreneurial journey is really interesting and it's very unique. And, you knew what you wanted, you knew some of your boundaries, but you were still just like, okay, I'm just going to be open and I'm going to learn And I'm going to ask as many questions as possible because the outcome of those, questions and answers is going to help me make decisions that are good. And I think the best entrepreneurs that I have met and the smartest ones I've met and the most successful ones I've met are ones who really, number one, don't believe they know it all. Number two, ask a lot of questions. But number three, have the drive and the confidence to ask those questions and to push back on things that people want that may not fit in the mold at the time or what is normally done. So, do you feel like that's been, that little girl who was, selling the golf balls? Do you feel like that creative part of you still is pulling through today as well?
By all means, I've always been super creative and inquisitive. And that's what led me to doing different things on social media, being active. Is what led me to create GovCon winners. It's one thing that also initially I found very satisfying around responding to RFPs,
Uh-huh.
because it was a way to show my creativity, to incorporate
Mhm.
my writing skills that I really honed in graduate school. And so it's been great to be able to let that kind of creative energy free in these, more businessy, fun, social kind of environments.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to want to pick your brain after we're all done on this anyway. And we were talking about, I'm just having so much fun. At some point in time, I'll have to ask you about your name, 'cause I love it. But tell us a little bit more. So you have 3 businesses now. So, with all that you're doing, you've obviously got a lot going on. How do you help your clients and other people to shock their potential through what you do? Tell us a little bit more about your business.
Yeah. So on the government side, the way that we really help our clients just with that shock to get to their potential is often through, we're there to make their life easier.
Mhm.
And it takes a different form. It could be training, it could be graphic design, it could be an admin. What's important is someone said, we need help, and we need someone who's really going to help us.
Mhm.
And we need someone who's also dependable
Mhm.
and who is going to really understand us and help us in the way in which we need help, not exactly how they think they should help us.
Uh-huh.
And so that's really important because it shocks them in that it allows them, being the government employees, military members we support. We have positions and team members, military, in the Army location in Hawaii, at Tinker Air Force Base. And it helps them because then they're able to focus on their jobs or their
Mhm.
positions in the military. And some of them are super important, that we help the USDA with our food, ensuring our food is free from foodborne illnesses. We work with the FDA to make sure that vape products are safe and people aren't dying from using them. So
Yeah.
the areas that we help, many of them are very, very serious, and that's how we help shock them. On the non kind of government side per se, through GovCon winners, I really help small businesses. I help shock them into an expansion of, wow, the federal government could really be a client,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
just understanding that's a potential revenue stream, as well as there's a plethora of things and services that the government buys. For instance,
Yes.
I just looked at one for hotel rooms. You can flip hotel rooms. Anyone can do that if they're
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually just received certification as a woman-owned business and enterprise and a woman-owned small business enterprise. And so the idea of, government contracts has been something I've been toying with for a while, but it's daunting. When you've kind of operated in a different way, different arena of your business, it's a little daunting to look at the process. But I know in the back of my head that once you know kind of the secret formula, a little bit of the secret sauce, that not only will that make it a little easier, but then the more you have doors open, like anything, the more you have
Yes.
opportunity. But for small business owners, it can be very daunting. So I can see how you can help people maybe not only get through the process, but make it a little less intimidating.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember when I first got started, I had no idea. And I spent so much time just even trying to figure out how to understand an RFP. Sometimes a
Mhm.
request for proposal is literally 100 pages.
Yes.
And I didn't know what anything meant. And people would just rattle off, oh, look at this section and L and M. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then there's like no right or wrong answer. One
Mhm.
proposal may win work, but then a similar proposal, you may not win work. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot to really unpack and learn, and it can be extremely rewarding for those that are interested in trying to learn.
Yeah, and it's done. I learned something else. I was applying for uh, or responding to an RFP, and it was just actually a letter of intent, so not even the proposal yet, but letter of intent, and it posted, and it was only posted for that day, and it was completely aligned to my leadership training. I mean, just like 100% aligned. And so there was an email to send the RFI, I guess, or a letter of intent or LOI. And I got a response back, and the response was so funny. And I realized that they already had somebody
Mhm.
that they wanted to give the contract to, but they had to post it. And I was just a pain in the neck to show up at the last second.
Yes.
So, and so, it happens.
But you didn't know.
No, I had no idea.
You didn't know. And that happens all the time. And that's one example. There's other ways in which the government and private sector, this is not just exclusive to the federal government, where they weed in who they
Mhm.
want.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I never heard back from them again. So I figured I either really overbid it or I really underbid it or something. But
It's okay.
it happens.
It happens.
So, Kizzy, I have to know, just because I love your name, where's your name come from?
Yeah. So when I was adopted, my parents were really motivated by the book and the movie Roots. And in the movie, there's a character named Kizzy, and in the
Yeah.
book, and they named her Kizzy because it means stay put. So my adopted dad said that we're family and you're with us, so you're staying put in our family,
Oh.
and that's why we named you Kizzy. So my full name is Kizzy Marie Parks, and so
Mm.
that is where Kizzy came from, Roots.
I love it. As you said that, I realized that I recognized the name, but I wasn't sure where. And I love what a great story with the name. It's perfect.
Thank
Well,
you.
Kizzy, I know we're going to have all of your contact information on our show notes so that, because I know that there's a lot of people that listen to my podcast that especially are interested in getting into or really doing better in that space in terms of government contracts. So I want to make sure, even though everybody will have all of our contact information and links, but in case somebody wants to look you up right now because they're, too distracted to go to the show notes, what's the best way for them to find you?
There's two best ways. One is through LinkedIn. If you search Kizzy Parks, I have blonde hair at the time. So you'll see me with curly blonde hair and a black and white dress. So DM me. You also can go to govconwinners.com, and you can see more about the program. There's a part at the bottom where you can request more information. But just please reach out. I just love to be of help. I'm really passionate about government contracting. And so please feel free to connect.
I love it. And before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom or pearls of advice for my listeners and viewers?
I would say, my biggest pearl of advice and what I always say to everyone is everything is possible. It's easy to always come up with excuses or roadblocks, or it's not going to work, or I tried it before and I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too married, I'm too single, whatever it is. Like, there's always an excuse, but everything literally is possible. And so whatever you're thinking about trying, you should just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. I love it. Kizzy, thank you so much for not only inspiring us of what we can do, but reminding us that our early entrepreneur is something we can bring out and use at other times in our lives and be thankful for it, but also for giving us perspective on what we can achieve with our businesses. It's been great having you with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Shock Your Potential podcast. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com. including details on Michael's 2 best-selling books. Tell me more, how to ask the right questions and get the most out of your employees, and Sales Mixology, why the most potent sales and customer experiences follow a recipe for success. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and like us today.